Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Fig Tree podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I am your host, coming to you on the morning of August 12th, 2026. And as we have had this flood of information coming from the Tony Fauci diaries connected to COVID and this work that Rand Paul has been doing in the Senate. Um, it's becoming clearer and clearer that there's just this rush of everything that happened during COVID is just being thrown back at us. And I'm not going to replay the events of a couple weeks ago and contempt of Congress and people debating whether that's the right strategy there, because we had something new develop. Okay, um, the new development was late last week. Another senator on the Homeland Security Committee in the Senate, Ron Johnson, from Wisconsin, was able to get access to the government issued iPhone or phone that Tony Fauci had. So that immediately opened up his text messages, that immediately opened up phone calls. And we're beginning to get a snapshot of some things, additional things from the COVID era that uh, is behind the scenes say one thing and publicly say something else. And all of this surrounds miscarriages. And you might recall the moment during the COVID jabs when um, there was this big debate about what a miscarriage is and all just crazy nonsense that the media was trying to explain away and basically altered definitions of things. The far more important stuff is how we are getting a snapshot at just what a monster Anthony Fauci is. So, the text messages that are emerging, and in the description to the podcast, I'm going to have a just slightly less than 3 minute clip Senator Johnson has with News Nation. And it's worth your time because he explains that, there was this text messaging, Tony Fauci and two others, and Tony Fauci comes back and says that, oh, there's, potential concerns regarding miscarriages and with vaccinated pregnant women. And of course, what we know is they told pregnant women, you'll be fine. Well, more than one woman in this country found out they weren't fine, and neither was their baby. And Senator Johnson explains what happens. And I'm also going to add a link to something else, but the quick cliff notes is this. So when this information emerges about miscarriages, there is a father somewhere in the country that I don't know who he was responding to, whether it was someone connected to pjmedia.com, one of the places I go to for information, which is connected to Town Hall Media, or if it was someone else. The genesis of the feedback is unclear, but read it for yourself. But there's this father that talks about how his wife and a coworker, both in, I believe it was the healthcare industry, were pregnant at the same time during COVID. And the husband goes on to explain that his wife did everything to avoid getting a vaccine, the COVID vaccine. She filed for an exemption, filed for a variety of things, did a variety of things for putting off what would essentially be a mandated jab for her, and not knowing how that would impact the baby. And the coworker ended up getting vaccinated. This dad came back and said they had a healthy baby boy. The coworker had a baby die near the time of birth because of a blood clot that was thrown, and it is believed directly resulted because of the COVID vaccine. Blood clots has been one of the most common afflictions for Americans who did get the vaccines. So, worth your time, worth your time. And I get the fact that people don't want to be reliving this stuff. And I get the fact that people want all of this in the rearview mirror. But we have not had any accounting in this country. And I, for one, am here for the accounting. I believe Tony Fauci is a monster, and he should be in jail. And I will stand by that because I'm not the only American who believes that. But it is it is it is time for some accounting of what happened here, and this new information about miscarriages. And doesn't even go into how any of that might be impacting infertility rates in this country. And I'll leave that there. But I just warn people there's going to be more and more and more stuff that emerges. And we're going to get a full picture of, because the diary that he kept on his government issued laptop told the story of this guy that was fascinated with all this attention he was getting. And on key things, we're finding out he would say one thing privately, and publicly he was saying something else to the American people. And Tony Fauci is he deserves jail. He deserves indictment, prosecution, and any punishment that comes from that, because he's got his fingers into um, perjury with the Congress. He's got his hands in all kinds of things related to this management of COVID that happened, that unforgivable, just unforgivable. And then, speaking of babies, just yesterday in Massachusetts, Massachusetts became the 10th state in this country, and I live in one, New York, that allows abortions up to the time of birth. And the reaction of everyone sitting around Governor Healy there in Massachusetts as she was signing this bill was like they were doing some momentous thing. Demonic. That's what it is. It's demonic. The intentional killing and dismemberment of the infanticide is demonic. Um, Moving to Minnesota. Okay, this is a very interesting video that emerged late last week. Um, Amy Klobuchar. So the background is this in Minnesota, of course, with all of the fraud that was being reported about in the Somali community in Minnesota. It drove Tim Walz to not seek reelection as governor in Minnesota. So the Democrats go, okay, we'll just get our sitting senator to do it. And Amy Klobuchar is in her third term as a U.S. senator. She was first elected in uh, 2006. So 2006, then 12 and 18. Oh, she was in her fourth term as senator, and she has the Democratic nominee for governor of Minnesota. They just had their primary yesterday. She'll be facing a Republican by the name of Lisa DeMuth. I don't know anything about Lisa DeMuth. For the sake of the folks in Minnesota, I hope Lisa DeMuth is able to pull all the punches that are or pull off the upset there in Minnesota, because obviously Klobuchar has name recognition, probably a barrel full of money, and all kinds of stuff following her. But there was a very fascinating clip that emerged last week as I believe it was called Farm Fest. Obviously, Minnesota is a farm state, and it's summertime. There's all kinds of things related to that people would be attending, especially politicians. And she's defending her support for police and border security, and the crowd isn't buying any of it. And this is what happens when you're a Democrat and certain things happen on the watch of a former president, Joe Biden, and you sit there and do nothing. And Amy Klobuchar only has herself to blame for the reaction that she got from that crowd at Farm Fest in Minnesota. But that will be a link in the description of the podcast as well, and I would encourage you to go to that. Thirdly, this is getting more and more serious. I have a couple videos I'm going to drop in the description of the podcast that come out of Dearborn, Michigan, and it involves Islam. And we are at a point in our country where patriotic Americans who give a rip about our way of life and what our founders did 250 years ago and even longer to create this country, that patriotic Americans are going to have to start paying attention and get themselves educated about what's going on with Islam in this country, or we will be losing the last spot freedom reigns. There's all kinds of examples already in Europe where Islam is taking root. England, France, a variety of other places. We've yet to see the blowback in Europe on like doing what Trump's been doing with deportations. And we have Islamic communities being built. One being built in Texas. There's talk of blowback from neighbors of similar proposals in Florida and North Carolina, and they're the ones that I'm aware of. And these local citizens are simply challenging their local governments for purposes of zoning and what could be happening there. Whether they're successful or not remains to be seen. But Islam, as a religion, is antithetical to everything involving freedom. And one of these videos is going to be rather, hopefully, shocking for folks. I'm going to post it. Actually, both of them have a shock value. Just wait till you see the one of the people walking down streets of Dearborn, Michigan, and then I'm assuming they're females. Just pay attention to that one, and then the second video focuses on a bunch of people praying at a mosque, and there's a couple clips that will emerge within that single video because it comes from the Middle East Media Research Institute. And this is a group of people at a mosque in Dearborn, Michigan, praying for the deaths of Jews, Christians, and others in the United States of America and the downfall of the American government. And I don't know when the Department of Justice and the FBI and others are going to start getting serious about the kinds of things that are being put forth in some of these mosques around this country, where they're actively praying for the deaths of Jews, Christians, and others. And all you got to do is listen to the rhetoric of these democratic socialists that are running for office this year. Many of them are Muslim. And to be someone who is a DSA candidate, you have to favor the downfall of the elimination of two things in the United States government: the United States Senate and the presidency. Or the Supreme Court. I'm sorry. And it's like these the very thing that they say that they're running for office for, you know, let's say the U.S. House, potentially the U.S. Senate, whatever, and you don't even support the institution. You don't even support branches of the government that come to make it what it is. And I don't know how we can have people that are running for government in this country who have no desire to support its very existence. Those two things don't make sense to me. They You can't do that. You can't sit there and vote for a budget for funding the government at a certain level, and down deep, you want the Senate and the Supreme Court to go away. I'm sorry. It doesn't work. And Americans are going to have to start paying attention. And I get it. I get it. The media has done so much to destroy credibility in what's coming across as news that a lot of people are turned off. I get it. And I've had the same frustration. But you can't shut yourself out of just not knowing what's going on, because other things will happen and there will be dominoes that fall and it'll be too late. And I'm going to repeat, either patriotic Americans start getting informed about what's going on with Islam in this country, and we fight for the American way of life, or we will lose it. Period. Full stop. The one thing that a bonus item I'm going to add is a video from someone who I trust, and it's somewhat kind of comical. Apparently, one day last week, BMW owners had an ad for the new Spider-Man movie pop up on their iDrive, the computer that has the gadgetry for probably lane changes and all kinds of stuff. And uh, it was just an ad for Brand New Day, the Spider-Man movie, and BMW um, called it a special surprise. Um, and there was more than one BMW owner in this country that was not amused at all. But that's going to be the bonus item this week. But that's all I have. Um, Getting back to something really, really serious in my Sunday column this week after a little diversion last week. If you like what you're hearing here on this podcast, if you like what you're reading in my column, please share it. And for those who do so, I thank you in advance. And we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. And until next time, God bless and goodbye.